Okay, today we're going over 2.7, true variable inequalities. So when we're using inequalities, we need to know all of the inequality signs. So we'll either have less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. So if you're graphing a two-variable inequality, that means it's going to be on a coordinate plane, and you'll graph your x and y axes. And if it's a less than symbol, it means it's not including the boundary line, meaning the linear equation or the absolute value equation. Same with greater than. That's also not including the boundary line. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it is including the boundary line for both of these. The other thing we need to know is if it's less than or if it's less than or equal to, you're going to shade the region below your boundary line. You'll shade the region below, and we'll do an example of that. If it's greater than or equal to, you're going to shade the region above the boundary line, and we'll do an example of that as well. Okay, so moving on, let's try an example. We'll start with something where it's going to be linear. So let's say we have y is less than 2x minus 1. So the boundary line is going to just be 2x minus 1. We're going to graph 2x minus 1. So when we do that, we'll draw in our axes and we'll plot the y-intercept and use the slope to find other points. Okay. So our y-intercept is a -1 because it's in the form of mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So your b here is a -1, so we're going to go to -1 and we'll plot our point. Our slope is 2 here, so from your y-intercept you're going to rise 2 and run 1. So this was the point 0, -1 for the y-intercept, and then we found another point which is 1, 1 when we used our slope 2 over 1 for our slope. You can find another point by continuing with your slope. Rise 2, 1, 2, and run 1. And now we have another point, which is 2, 3. Okay, so now we have to look at where we're going to shade and if it's going to be including or not including the boundary line. So since we have less than, that means it's not including the boundary line. So we're going to use a dashed line and to draw on the boundary line. And since it is y is less than, we're going to shade everything below. And that's how you graph two variable inequalities when it is for a linear equation.